I want to start everybody off with your story. I think it starts like many of us. You got a great education, and then what really launched you into the management consulting track?
Grew up in a very conservative, religious, military household, right? Where you got the idea of learn the rules. I remember even early, grew up in the Catholic Church, and it was like raised to be God-fearing. So don't mess up with the rules, follow the rules or bad stuff happens to you. So this is conditioned very early. As I'm exiting high school, it's basically like, get into a good school because a good school creates a good path. A good path creates a good job and a good life. So this is what subconsciously is going through my head. That's the roots of it all. So I get out of college in the mid 2000s, and really after the dot-com bubble burst had receded and things were good again in the tech world, jumped into technology and cybersecurity consultant in the management consulting space. And it was a good time, right? Getting back into that world. Things were looking good in tech, and found a lot of value where I was able to plug in as a consultant, learn a lot of interesting technical skills, management and leadership skills, started to find my footing as far as what I was good at, what I was interested in, and very quickly started rising up the ranks in this career field. At the same time, Christopher, I had a lot of quote success personally. Got married at 24, ended up having 3 kids by the time I was 28, and bought a house and all these things, had the 2 cars. Everyone would tell me, Matt, you are living the American dream. I'm like, box checked, box checked, box checked. This feels good. Ego is stroked. I am in a good spot. This is what I'm telling myself as I'm making this fast rise in my 20s, right? All the while, my wife at the time was raising our 3 kids. The demanding job pulls me on the road, always places, always going different countries, serving clients. This is what was required. I looked up at my bosses. This is what success looked like. This is what was role modeled for me. I knew nothing different. So I felt I had to do the same. And in essence, Christopher, it got to the point where my job became my identity. I couldn't separate the two. I could never unplug. And I told myself, this is for my family. This is for them. In reality, I wasn't giving any attention to them because I was sacrificing everything at work and telling myself I was for them. There was a huge disconnection. And that all got to the point very soon where things started to fall apart.
The journey that you were on is most of us. And I can't speak for myself because I deviated early. I have a whole crooked path story, but I saw so many people like yourself where you got in the good school, then you got into the job. I want to try and tease out for people, like what were some of the things that were really good that were happening that gave you momentum, but then also in hindsight, where did you see yourself all of a sudden starting to message, to yourself in ways that were starting to create a rift between you and your family?
There were a lot of goods early in my career. First decade, I really found a ton of value, and I still value it today. Those experiences, the ability to plug into meaningful missions, whether it was like defense and intelligence community stuff, whether it was private corporations doing meaningful missions, like working up to boards of directors, these were very important things in my mind. And those experiences were only accessible through a corporate environment. The only way I couldn't achieve that as Matt in his mid to late 20s on his own, completely inaccessible. And that idea of plugging in and learning leadership skills, managing teams, where else would I get that other than an environment like that? So I'm immensely thankful. It created a foundation for me, skills-wise, mindset-wise, financially, of course, it created a good cushion for my family, a substance to be comfortable and build off of. I'm very thankful for that. But as time wound on, after I built that foundation, I kept going and I kept going again because I thought that's what I had to do. And I swear within a year, things just hit a wall. I remember being in Munich, Germany for a meeting, and I was in my gold-plated hotel room. I remember it very clearly. And I just had this hyperventilation thing happen to me where I couldn't breathe and I fell to my knees because I realized I was in Germany for a one-day trip and I was missing my baby son's birthday for that work meeting that I didn't even need to be on. I felt it was just keeping up with the Joneses at work. And I was like, what the hell am I doing right here? What am I trading off? And that kickstarted over the year. Like literally within a few weeks, I learned my dad had brain cancer. He passed away in 90 days. I had to reconcile with not having the relationship I always thought I would have time to have with him. Never built it. That brought a lot of mortality thoughts to my mind. Life is short. My wife and I's relationship fell apart. The work at home thing, like the tension from work was terrible. We ended up getting divorced, which in turn prevented me from seeing my kids. So I only saw them 4 days a month. and it still is to this day, a decade later, that same scenario, which is a very long-term price to pay. My mental and physical health was terrible. I was living on anxiety medications, just trying to get through. I was in therapy all the time. This all happened within 1 year. And what I had found, I have language for this now, Christopher, is that I'd given so much of my life to corporate, and I was trapped in the corporate cage. Now, the corporate cage is a mental state that we say yes to. We opt in. It does not happen to us. We opt into that cage. We step into it. What I didn't realize the whole time is that the door was wide open, but I chose to stay in it.